Welcome in, everybody, to the Sideline Fantasy Show. Believe it or not, we are on week 13 of the season, which is our, obviously, regular season finale week. We are back co-hosting Crammy Charles and Eric Fullman, ready to talk this weekly league with you guys. Obviously, I'm not in the best of spirits, having been officially dethroned last week. Well, not dethroned, but put out on the pasture, I guess, for this season. It was a tough one. Did my darndest to get back in it, did the moves I thought I had to make to just squeeze in. I was in position last week, but COVID killed my season, Crimmy. It just killed.
I wouldn't say more so it was COVID. I think you felt the rhythm, you felt that rhyme, you got on up, and it was Tunyon time, baby. And he came and he did what he had to do to give me the matchup. Even more so, though, it was kind of your fault by playing good old Jared Goff.
No, if I had Lamar Jackson, I win.
Nobody knows. We can't tell.
You even said that. You even said, yeah.
No, it was a better chance for you to win. Yes, we have no clue how that game panned out.
He's putting on a clinic, boys. He's putting on a show. Crim Lamar Jackson, I don't think has gotten less than 10 points in his life.
Who knows?
Ever. What do you mean, who knows? I know.
Who knows?
Jesus.
Anyways.
What I'm saying is Kyler Murray, like I told you earlier in the week, Kyler Murray getting 7 sucked, right? Because we could look at that. Your quarterback barely had anything too. But again, my point being was, but you've started him all year. I've started Lamar all year. So COVID ended my season because if Lamar Jackson goes out and does 13 in his worst performance ever, I'm heading to the playoffs.
I mean, the same can be said if you just kept your lineup as it was and Wentz gave you 22.
Did he have 22? I thought he didn't have that.
Something like that. He was pretty good. He had it because he scored garbage points, man. So he had
18.
So he had 18.
Even still, that's what I'm saying. But it still doesn't change the fact that COVID killed my season and the fact I even had to make a decision. That's what I'm getting at. Still killed it. Still took me down. What do you mean, What do you mean, I still had to make a decision, and I wouldn't have had to if this thing wasn't around.
Yeah,
right?
but you can't sit there and say Lamar's getting a certain amount of pointage on the Steelers defense that's been playing pretty well the entire year. So.
You mean the Steelers defense where he had 14 already?
Okay, give him another 14, and then what?
I win.
Did you not lose by 15?
Well, I would have 11 more. Goff got me 3. I'd have 11 more. That would have won the week last week. It would have beat you by 3. That's what I'm saying. What do you mean? All right. Anyway, enough time on this. Jesus Christ, season's done. My team wasn't that good enough anyway. I'll be back next year. Crim can have this one. He needs his ring though. So let's get into it. Obviously, you are at top of the division at 7-5 after skating by these last couple weeks. Your brother is 6-6 in the 2 spot. He, like I've said before, might have one of the best chances of taking on Division 2 in the playoffs. You got Pistol Pete in the 3 spot at 6, and really it's spot right now. We got 3 6-6 teams, 2, 3, 4. 2 of them play each other this week. You play Chad this week. The bye is still up for grabs. The 1 spot's still up for grabs, I believe. You did clinch a playoff spot, but the 1 seed is still up for grabs. And then me and Jay out of it at 5-7 and 4-8. In Division 2, you have Tyler at 8-4, looking pretty there. Rob at 7-5. Finally, highest scoring team in the league is finally getting some respect there in the 2 spot. Justin at 7-5, Kyle at 7. Again, very similar situation in Division 2, just with an extra win on their side. 3 7-5 teams as well. Although Dave is 6-6, I think he is mathematically eliminated, regardless if he wins or not. And then Dana, obviously, at 3-9. We've been talking about this for a while, Crim. Both 1 seeds are. Did we confirm if that 1 seed in Tyler's is still up for grabs?
I don't think we've confirmed it. I mean, you can kind of easily break it down now. He does play Rob this week, right?
You said does Tyler play Rob?
No. Yeah. Who does Rob? So Rob plays. Okay, Rob plays Dana. Tyler then plays Dave. So
the only person Tyler lost to in division play, I believe, was Dana, in the first 5 set of games.
Then that means nothing. It would be locked up at that point. So there's nothing to change there, but obviously a lot to shuffle in between that 2 and 4 spot in that division, as well as obviously, like you said, Division 1. The standings do not obviously show what's currently happening. I do believe that I don't want Peter to look at this and go, "I'm excited. I've got a shot at there's 3 seeds here. I believe that is still Chad's. I think that Peter is supposed to be in the 4 spot, and then Chad jumps him with a head-to-head tiebreaker there. So, it's a win to get in at this point for Peter and Trey. So, those guys really don't have much to necessarily out of that.
Yeah, and going back to the Chad Peter thing, yeah, Chad did beat Peter, so he does have the tiebreaker over him. Peter theoretically is the 4 spot right now. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting last week of the season here. It's real tight, tightest I've really seen it with so many teams going in it right at the end here. It's going to be fun, and we got some big matchups. So let's get right to them. We'll talk about the divisions again at the end, but first matchup, we're not even going to talk about it. It doesn't matter. Like I said, the show could be even quicker. Me and Jay's game has 0 relevance to this, or I shouldn't say first game. It's the first game on my screen. We won't talk about me and Jay's game just because that is the one game this week, the only game I think on tap that has absolutely 0 playoff relevancy. So we'll skip that one when we come to it. But first matchup is yours. Nuke Jukum 7-5, looking to ride a 4-game winning streak into the playoffs with the 1 seed, going against Chad, looking to take that back. He's lost 4 in a row. He's 6-2. A couple weeks ago, I said I don't think if he did not win Week 11, that really close game that he had with Justin that was coming down to the wire, I did not think he was going to get in the playoffs. I think looking at the schedule, looking at everything, I think he's going to end the year on a 5-game losing streak. I think he's going to go to 6-7. I think you have the matchups here. He's got Ronald Jones, DJ Moore on a bye. He has to go Latavius Murray, Cam Akers. I mean, he's hoping for. I think he's trying to truck up a Hail Mary at this point. I think you should feel not only have you clinched, but you should feel very, very safe heading into this one. Really hoping to secure that bye.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a bye is nice. I don't have to worry about Week 14 scheduling. I can kind of just sit back and kind of cater my team towards that Week 15, 16 scheduling, which I've kind of somewhat already begun doing, but I can't sit here and kind of count Chad out. Any week that a team is playing, obviously there's a chance that something goes wrong and you kind of don't get the projections that are sitting there, but with a 14-point projection win for me here, it's a good spot that I obviously in. I like what's going on with my team right now. I mean, like you said, riding a 4-game win streak into this game would be massive. But like Chad said too a couple weeks ago, that Joe Mixon kind of not coming back derailed his entire season and kind of dug his own grave at that point, which it's proving true right now.
And based off how he started the season, like I said, if he would have won that Week 11 game and been 7-5 heading into this week, he might have already clinched because he had the tiebreaker over a lot of, like I said, Peter. He had it over Jay. Obviously, he had it over me, which I can't even reach that. And the only one he doesn't have it over right now because he beat you early in the year was you. And I think Trey has it over him as well. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough for him. It is. I think his season is hanging on by a thread here. Even, Pittman, Robinson is a little banged up. Debo is going to play that Monday night game, and even he's, been shaken up all year. He's hanging on barely. I mean, he's managing it, but he's barely hanging on. You never want to say anything is a sure thing in fantasy, but in terms of matchup-wise, in terms of who's being thrown out there, you got to feel very, very comfortable heading in. So you should be able to get to that 8-5 mark, wrap up that 1 seed, and we'll see if you can get that monkey off your back, Krim. You've been to the playoffs a lot. Can you finally get it done? Let's move on to the.
I hope so.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next matchup here. A really big one. Literally an elimination game, right? I mean, Trey versus Peter here. The only way Trey could get in with a loss, I don't know how that works.
I believe he gets in with a loss as long as Chad loses, because him and Chad being tied, he jumps Chad still.
Yeah. But that's where I'm confused because I have the tiebreaker over Trey.
You have the tiebreaker over Peter and Trey, but Chad would also jump you no matter what.
Yeah, but if Trey jumps Chad, I don't know. How does that even... Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's complicated.
It's complicated. The way it broke down at 6-6 was obviously going to change the way it looks, but as I had it, I believe the tiebreaker for Trey, he has it over me because he beat me the one time we played, and he has it over Chad. So if you have it over Trey and Peter at 6-6, which is what we're talking about, then you can't jump me, you can't jump Chad.
Oh yeah, no, I have no way in. I'm eliminated because no matter what, Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if there's actually a way to have one of these teams lose and get in because the tiebreakers for Chad, I believe he has it over Peter and you.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I have the tiebreaker over Trey and Peter, but one of them's going to win, right? So let's just throw it out of the equation.
Yeah.
I have tiebreaker over both of them. If one of them has a tiebreaker over Chad and I have the tiebreaker over that person, if someone's listening, try to break this down for me. I don't know if Kyle's listening. I don't know if any of y'all actually hold on, listen to the whole show or go to your matchup, but I'd be curious what you guys think on this whole tiebreaker situation because I'm not sure. The only one I don't have the tiebreaker over is Chad, but if someone has the tiebreaker over him and I have the tiebreaker over that person, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean we can look into it at the end of the show and just kind of bring look deeper into it to make sure we have what we have.
Yeah, I personally don't want to screw anyone over if
no,
there's.
I do think
It's just never been this close before. I don't know.
No,
Usually there's a clear cut. You beat him. There's two teams tied. Boom. It's
if you look at it, the tiebreaker you have is over Peter and Chad, correct?
No, for Peter and Trey, and one of them is going to win. So it doesn't matter. They're going to have more wins than me. That'll be a 7. But if you beat Chad, he's 6-7. We got to figure out that third team, right? If Chad's 6-7, and let's pretend Trey loses and he's 6-7, right? Trey has the tiebreaker over Chad. He beat him. I have the tiebreaker over Trey. Chad has the tiebreaker over me.
Then Chad at that point would jump you, and then Trey jumps Chad, which puts Trey in that third spot.
Yeah, I'm not. If that's how, I don't know if that's how it breaks down.
Because your common opponent would be Chad, and he has it over Chad. You don't.
Is that how it would work?
I think
maybe
so.
Next year we need to vote just on a division, like it's head to head. Then obviously, like if it's between two teams, it goes to obviously who has the most points on the season. But once it gets to 3 teams, I don't know how that works, and I don't know if next year we want to vote on just like after head to head, it goes to just division record or something like that, and then after division record, it goes to total point. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. That's something we can discuss in the offseason. So, but yeah, back to the matchup. Trey, Peter, big one here. Trey projected for 103 points. Peter projected for just about 107. It's going to be a close one. Peter's riding the Taysom Hill train against Atlanta. He did really, really well a couple weeks ago against him. They're facing off again. He's not playing Amari Cooper. That's a decision he's going to make. He's going to go Terry, Stephon Diggs, and he's going with Josh Jacobs out, Devontae Booker in that Las Vegas backfield. On the other hand, your brother Claypool, A.J. Brown, Brandon Cooks, he's got to go now with Will Fuller being suspended. Josh Jacobs is out. So Fuller, Jacobs out. He's got to throw in some replacements here, but he's got the depth to do it. This is where it would have counted. He's got Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt there in that Cleveland backfield, and obviously Deshaun Watson at quarterback projected for a massive 22 points. This is going to be a fun one. Like I said, winner gets in no matter what. We at least know that. Winner gets in no matter how do you see this one shaking out? Trey projected right now to lose.
Yeah. Well, just to correct you on what you said earlier, Trey didn't actually have Fuller, so playing Brandon Cooks was always a thing for him. But having him out, yes, obviously increases Brandon Cooks' production, you would think. I do think that Trey will take this game just because what he has lined out right now on his, Saturday at 1:09 p.m. for me, essentially 23 hours and 50 minutes before the games actually kick off. I don't see Kareem Hunt being in that lineup come kickoff time just because Jonathan Taylor has a good matchup. I mean, he didn't play last week due to COVID. But coming back into a game where you're going to play Houston and your team is likely going to be able to take, a hefty lead early in the game, the opportunity is there for him. I think that it's somebody he'll play over, a secondary running back in Kareem with having Claypool in his flex position, who has been playing well this year. So that move right there, I think, kind of gives him the edge. Just prediction-wise, he's supposed to get another point, which still loses, in regards to that model. But I think that right there is kind of the move that needs to be made in order to push him over the top in regards to Peter's team. I mean, Peter has solid matchups. Aaron Jones, who has been kind of hit or miss. It's very weird with him because we saw him, I believe, last week. He had 9.5 points against the Bears. Which isn't bad, but I felt like I saw more Jamal Williams on the field than I did Aaron Jones, and that to me was very odd. So I don't know if they're kind of trying to keep him around for playoffs or what the case is.
Keep his legs rested. Yeah.
I mean, that could come to bite you in the ass at that point with them resting your player prematurely, And Miles Sanders. I mean, one of those teams is going to probably jump out ahead. I'm going to assume that's going to be Green Bay just because the Eagles have been pretty lackluster. So one of those guys getting phased out, and that's kind of you're picking your poison at that point. So you're hoping that both of them kind of play well in a close game, but the way that these teams have been playing, it doesn't look like it's going to be the case. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be close. I'll be surprised if Booker is kind of the end all be all for Peter. I mean, it's a good pickup he made. He spent every last fab dollar he had on Booker just to ensure he gets him for this week with 51. So, and the matchup is good. Josh Jacobs being out, it works, but who's to say Booker gets the entire share of those touches? It'll be hard to say that, especially if they get up high enough and they have some, players they want to kind of see what they've got over there in, Las Vegas. But I mean, that could be a very big swing right there with Trey's running back being out in a juicy matchup and Peter kind of grabbing that backup before he could.
Yeah, and what Taysom Hill are we going to see? I know he's playing Atlanta again, threw for 230 yards last time, 2 rushing touchdowns. Taysom Hill is still yet to throw a touchdown yet. He had 2 rushing touchdowns in both games that he started. Did not even have 100 yards passing last week against a better Denver defense than Atlanta. But even still, something to think about here. Peter, I don't think can afford 140, 150 yard. It's thrown in with another couple rushing touchdowns, right? Or at least a passing touchdown. So that Taysom Hill Atlanta matchup, it worked out well last time. Even theoretically, last week would have been an okay week to start Taysom Hill putting up 17, despite him not even throwing for 100 yards. But he's obviously got to sit Brady, which is a big deal. I mean, Brady's quarterback 7 this year on fantasy. He got Peter 21 points last week. He's had a couple weeks where he's been shaky, but outside of that, Brady's been an okay fantasy quarterback this year when a lot of people kind of thought those days were behind him, being quarterback 7. So I'm sure after this week with the bye, he'll drop a little bit, but still should be in the top 12 guys. But yeah, it's going to be a close one. Chop Squad, Pistol Pete, winner gets in. Trey has some league history here. Never, ever been to the playoffs. He has been in here since our league's inception. He's in his 6th year in the league, and he has never been to the playoffs yet. Peter, on the other hand, this is his 4th year in the league, and he's only been in the playoffs once. So he's had a couple bad years back to back, and he's looking to kind of jump off that schneid as well. So both teams looking for their first playoff appearance either ever or in a while. So I know Trey for a second there didn't even know he was in it last week. That was kind of a funny moment, but he's in it. He's in a playoff game right now. Really a playoff game. So let's move on to the next matchup here, Crimmy. We got Fear the Herbinator, Dave, who is out of it at 6-6, but he's already said, I'd like to finish above 500. Let's go for it. Going against Tyler, who's really had the lead in that division damn near all year. He's 8-4. He's had a couple scares where teams have gotten close, but he's looked pretty good. Again, we say it every week. The Chargers show on one end is going to be big. On the other side, Mahomes against that Denver defense, he's going to have to go Frank Gore again. McCaffrey still banged up. George Kittle on the IR. Despite all the injuries Tyler has had this year, he still is in week 13 in a spot to wrap up a bye week, get a bye week. And you got to admire how good his team's been this year. Not the highest scoring team in the league, but he's been on top of that division all season. And here he is in the last week of the year cruising possibly to a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And he's got a playoff spot, but
he's got a playoff spot, yeah. But yeah, he, and just to touch on, what Dave said about wanting to finish over 500, just so everybody is still well aware. I mean, during these last couple weeks where you guys are still out of it, I mean, well, this week, I guess, would kind of end it all. You still have a chance to, win some sort of prize in regards to the highest scoring team each week, but it's cool to kind of have your record reflect how your team played and how you've been over the years. I mean, because this league's been around for a while now. That a win here means nothing for Dave in regards to the playoffs, but it's something to kind of fun to look back and say, yeah, I've been playing well. This hasn't happened for me, whatever. But it's always good to have somebody who is still willing to give it a shot and try to win a game, and play spoiler in what way they can, because Dave can change the landscape of that division a little bit here. I mean, I know Tyler's set, but his bye, I think, is still on the line, right? So that's something that
I'm trying to think of that. Again, I know we talked about it earlier, so it's my bad for not doing the homework here. Tyler was 4-1 in division play, with his only loss being to Dana. Okay, so and then last week he played and won against Kyle, so he can't lose it against Kyle. He only lost to Dana, so I'm
No, so
99% sure
he's locked. He's locked.
Yeah.
So this week means essentially nothing to Tyler. But obviously, you kind of want to make sure you have the right pieces. These weeks, although they mean nothing in regards to playing the actual game, you're still worrying about injury. You're still worrying about how these players perform. You're still worrying about having the right pieces in the right spots to make a playoff run. I mean, like Tyler right now is in a spot where you can scour the waiver wire, and if you have like a defense that you don't think is going to get you through next week or 15, 16, you have the opportunity to now grab those things. And I'll touch on that later on. I mean, I did that myself actually before coming onto the show, where I grabbed two defenses. I grabbed the Chargers and Niners. This week is a big week for me, and I'm fine with kind of taking a hit on the defense if the Buffalo Bills decide to go off against that Niners squad. But the matchups there with the Chargers and Niners in the playoffs are pretty good. So I mean, you're able to now prepare. It gives you the opportunity to not have to worry about playing next week, obviously. And for Tyler, it's a matter of now getting back players that are on a bye or are injured. I mean, McCaffrey, he's hurt. He's on a bye. So if he comes back week 14 and bolsters your team in that way, now you have Zeke and now you have McCaffrey at the perfect time. You don't have to run Frank Gore out there. You don't have to rely on someone like James White. And his team actually could get another jolt of energy with George Kittle. I saw a report the other day that says Kittle might come back, near the end of the year. He might come back for one game, may come back for 2 games, 3 games. No one knows yet. But, if Kittle comes back for that week 16 game and it's someone you can now rely on, I know it's coming off an injury. It's tough to, rely on most players, but I feel like someone like George Kittle is someone you won't even think twice about. You'll toss him in your lineup if he's available for you. So things like that could, having that bye, not having to worry about that 1 week can change a lot.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, this has been with basically McCaffrey being out all season. And it's kind of crazy to think, weird thing, but McCaffrey's running back 36 or 38, and he's played 3 games. I mean, when he's been in the game, I mean, would he not be, again, huge what if here, but based on what he did in the only 3 games he's played, how would that man not be the number 1 running back in fantasy again this year? I mean, he's had 3 amazing weeks, and he's running back 38 somehow still. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is crazy.
Like he's higher than Frank Gore, who's played every game this year. Frank Gore is running back 46.
That's bad. And it goes both ways, too, just to touch on that. I mean, like Zeke is still running back 8. I mean, outside of week 5, he's been really lackluster. And then he had that breakout game week 11, but
yeah, a lot of single-digit games.
Like that's what I mean. Like he's still running back.
But at this point, from Tyler's perspective, he's in. It doesn't. All he needs now is for Zeke to just do fine these next few weeks, and at the end of the day, he'll look at that as a good trade because he won it. And Zeke's schedule the next couple weeks, obviously, playoff schedule at least. Cincinnati, San Francisco. That Cincinnati game next week could be a big breakout one for him as well. But yeah, Tyler's looking really good. Like I said, Division 2 wise, he's looking in a secure spot. And again, if he gets a bye week, which he has, that game I guess doesn't even matter, right? Didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's something I wasn't touch on too. I mean, that week 14 game for Zeke, it's the best game he has on his playoff schedule, I would say, and that's a game that really won't matter for Tyler. So he's running into San Fran and running into Philadelphia. I mean, again, both teams aren't great offensively, but on the defensive side of things, they've been pretty stout. So it could. I mean, the trade itself obviously had to happen. His lack of running backs, with McCaffrey being out, he needed it. But yeah, it just sucks that Dak Prescott really killed the stock of Zeke. I mean, if he was still there, I would have Zeke on my squad still. But it's just crazy to think that even with Zeke playing probably his worst football of his career, Tyler's team is still just, riding high with Mahomes and, guys like Metcalf and Robert Woods are carrying the load. So, getting to 9-4, maybe 8-5 this week, depending on how this game works out with that number 1 spot locked up. I mean, you can't really complain either way.
No, not at all. And like I said, Tyler is in very, very good position. Like I said, second year in the league, last year had an okay season. Didn't go as great, I'm sure, as he would have liked, but held his own. And now this week he is he's going out there again. So moving on to the next matchup, Fear Boners, Brady Bunch. Does this one even matter?
Yeah, it matters for Rob. I mean, if Rob somehow, some way is able to get, fall to 7-6, I believe there would be a couple. There would be another 7-6 team. I'm not sure how the breakdown goes
Well,
for him and Kyle,
he's
him and
beat
Justin.
Justin twice, and
So,
he beat Kyle.
so I mean, at that point too, I mean, again, this is a game that could not matter. Obviously, we haven't done the full on math here, but Rob could have also just with his last week's performance just clinched himself a playoff spot, and it just comes down to that last matchup of the week.
Pretty sure he did. Because, like I said, he's beat Justin twice. If Justin loses, he's 7-6. There's head to head, and he's only played Kyle once. So if Justin beats him, yeah. So Rob's in.
And that goes back to the first couple weeks of the season where, yeah, you don't think it's a big swing game in regards to it's week 2, it's week 3. I still got a lot of time left. That game right there proves massive. Where Rob takes a W there, it comes down to this, and he's got your tiebreaker there. I mean, he's not worried about that at that point. So
I say it every year, man. It's those first 5 weeks of the season are arguably the biggest ones, especially weeks 3 through 5, when you only play those division opponents one time. Tyler did beat Rob, which again insinuates that Tyler does have the bye week. Rob's in, so again, this game pretty much means nothing. Dana, not a good season for him. Rob, on the other hand, went from not even being in a playoff spot to winning last week and basically clinching. So, good job there. But good job. He could finish 8-5. So let's just move on to our last matchup here. This is the win and get in game between Justin and Kyle. We have 2 win and get ins: Chop Squad and Pistol Pete, and Kyle and Justin. Justin's team has managed to stay afloat. He's never been projected for high points these last few weeks, but he's managed to stay afloat. He did lose last week by only 9. Another close one there to Rob, which would have been huge for him. But Kyle, we know his team's hard to beat. He, even in a loss last week, still put up 123. Most weeks, that's going to get you a win. He is 7-5. Yes, he is coming down into last week, having to fight for a playoff spot. Anything can happen in fantasy. But Justin's got to ride out McKissick. He's got to ride out Edmonds. He's got to ride out Dalton Schultz, who has turned it around a little bit. He's been okay, but for tight end, I mean, you're hoping for 8-9 points from him. With Kyle's super team, I would be crazy if he didn't get in. But there is a possibility here for that to happen. I'm sure for your sake, for people that are in sake, Tyler's sake, Rob's sake, they're really hoping for a Justin upset here. But at the end of the day, a 26-point favorite Kyle is right now, according to projections. I know this is a win or get in, but does Justin have a shot?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got a shot in any given week. I mean, projections, before games are played, to me, take them with a grain of salt for sure. But looking at obviously Justin's team, you can see where the glaring needs are. Your running backs, after trading away Kamara, aren't great. I mean, McKissick didn't have a great game last week. Edmonds is kind of getting there with touchdowns, but he's not really being too involved. And the player you traded for last week wasn't available because he, again, on the COVID list. So you're trying to rely on these kind of back end players, and someone like a Fulgham or a Schultz or Edmonds. McKissick even was throughout the year was solid, but has kind of taken a big hit with the emergence of Antonio Gibson there in Washington. And they're just his bench. There aren't any better options really. I mean, you don't have Mike Evans for a very crucial matchup. He's been kind of the guy carrying your wide receiver core for the most part. But looking at Kyle's team, I have a feeling he'll win the game. I don't really see an avenue where he doesn't. But at the same time, he does have playoff matchups where some of these players that are pretty key run into difficult matchups. I mean,
and the thing is too, Kyle, by the end of the year, he's about 80 points behind Rob right now. That is a little steep when you break down how many weeks are left in the season. But in terms of like overall points over the course of an entire season, including playoffs, Kyle's got a really good shot of taking over the highest scoring team in the league this year. He's obviously not going to do it in the regular season. Obviously he'd have to somehow outscore Rob by 80 points this week, which theoretically, yeah, possible. Rob could have 80 and Kyle could have a 160 week, but Kyle's team's coming fast. And I think this is one of those things where Kyle's got to be sitting there right now devastated if his team doesn't get in, because it is so good. I know he's trying to do the whole my team's really not that good card, but you're sitting there looking at that team, Crimson. If it doesn't get in, you're pissed, right?
I mean, if it's me, yes. If I'm Kyle,
I'd be furious if my
if
team didn't get in.
if I'm rocking the Crocs that Kyle's rocking right now, then yeah, I'm pissed that my team doesn't get in for sure. But as somebody who's watching these games and trying to see who's getting in, who's not getting in, and surveying the lay of the land at that point, with him not getting in, I'm perfectly fine with that. Like you stated before, I'm okay
Yeah.
with Justin.
I'm sure a lot of people are rooting for
Yeah,
Kyle to lose this week.
they'd much rather play a Justin team as opposed to having to sit there and play Kyle's team just because, yeah, again, there are some players who have tougher matchups. I mean, James Robinson's matchups going into the playoffs aren't on paper ideal. And someone like Alvin Kamara, who's kind of, I wouldn't say lost usage, but with Taysom Hill being there and running the ball more so and Latavius Murray getting more involved, Kamara isn't getting as many touches as he was with Drew Brees there. So, I mean, that could kind of take a hit there as well. But at the same time, if you're doing that, you still have the pieces to where they can hold you up. You've got Devontae, you've got Tyreek, you've got Chris Carson. I mean, those guys aren't going anywhere. David Johnson, if he's coming back now, so you can play him if you really need to. Like, you've got the flexibility there. The team itself is pretty stout. There's really no glaring weakness outside of having a streamer quarterback every week. But I feel like we've seen obviously the best of it in certain players, and we've seen the worst of it, especially last week where Kyle had Derek Carr give him a total of 0.6 or whatever the hell that was.
Crazy, and he's still, and that's what I'm telling Kyle, and he still scored 123.
Yeah, and if your quarterback's normally giving you 15, 20 points, and now you're getting 0.6 and still cracking 120, that means the rest of your team is very effective. So,
and then that's where the quarterback streaming can kill you. But I mean, like you said, he 123 last week with his quarterback not even putting up a single point, and again, his number one running back in the league putting up 5.7. And he still put up one. His tight end putting up 1.8. And again, we could see that big glaring 50-point performance from Tyreek Hill. But that's the type of players he has. Does he expect another 50-point performance from Tyreek Hill? No, but that's the type of player that can do it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. He's got such big, Devontae Adams, without doubt, can have a 3-touchdown game easily. Tyreek Hill could have 203 touchdowns. Chris Carson's getting the ball 20 times a game. Robinson's getting the ball 20 times a game. So, with Kamara getting 5 and his quarterback getting less than a point last week, still putting up 123. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of teams right now that are in the playoff chase. Chad, you, Trey, Rob. I mean, no one wants Kyle in the playoffs because I think he's the clear runaway favorite still.
Yeah, I mean, again, his team is very strong. Obviously, I don't sit there and look at, I think I'm going to lose a game if I play Kyle, because you can look at the same thing on, anyone's side of things to where they have good matchups and they have solid players, but it just comes down to a matter of consistency, and I feel like he's had the most consistent players on the field in regards to his receivers and obviously his running backs. I mean, yeah, Kamara had a down week last week, but that didn't change his ranking much. I mean, he still comes into the league as RB1 after a 5-point week. I mean, it doesn't affect his team that much, and obviously the matchups moving forward in the playoffs. I mean, his running backs have tougher ones. Kamara would play the Eagles week 14. Week 15, he plays the Chiefs. Week 16, he plays Minnesota, so that could work out very well for him. James Robinson, on the other hand, tougher matchups there in the playoffs. He plays Tennessee week 14. Week 15 plays Baltimore. Week 16 plays Chicago. So Kyle is going to be playing a week 14 game. We've worked that out as much. He will be playing next week.
He's got to fight for it. He's got a good team, but he is gonna have to fight next week regardless. Yeah, I mean, really, he's in the playoffs the rest of the year, right? Because he's got no way in with a loss here this week, and a win obviously gets him in, and he can't get a bye. So the playoffs start right now for Kyle. The playoffs start right now for Justin. I mean, this is it. This is playoff time for them.
Yeah, and it's exciting that way too. I mean, to sit there and obviously, someone like yourself, if you're not really looking at your score more so as a competitive score, you're kind of looking at it as my team put up this much. Cool, I might, get out $10. But it's fun to watch these other games and kind of, not key in on who they have on their teams, but just to kind of check back every now and again, saying, oh wow, like McKissick somehow, some way broke off a 70-yard touchdown. That
that's all it takes, man. The game can flip quick.
It's crazy. I mean, these players, obviously, you look at Kyle's team and you say these players are more consistent, but I do think that on Justin's side of things, he does have players on his team that can make big plays. I mean, we haven't seen Fulgham perform as he should. Schultz is a good target in the red zone for Dallas. Thielen, we've seen have a great game. So against Jackson,
Well, I mean,
he could do it again. But
it's just crazy when you look at the project. And again, I know projections aren't everything, and a lot of times I mean, they're just there to look at. But take away quarterback and just look at how many double-digit projections there are. Justin's got Ridley at 11.5, Thielen at 13.4. Kyle's got his entire team outside of his tight end. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously not looking at kicker defense, which are never really projected for 10 plus, but the only person not projected for 10 is his tight end.
Yeah, and that's also somebody who you and I both know can crack 10 very easily. I mean, as long as you score a touchdown.
As long as they got a quarterback, right?
Yeah, as long as you. I mean, that's the thing too. If I know they're keeping Blake Bortles away from everybody, so that if it comes down to it, he'll play. So they'll have a quarterback. It's just a matter of what quarterback they'll get. I mean, if you have Drew Lock and you're sitting there with Noah Fant, you're ecstatic. I mean, 7.75 could turn into 10 very quickly and very easily. So right there, you're cracking double digits again. And if you're getting 10 points from each guy outside of your quarterback, that's what, 50 points, 60 points already off of just those guys alone. Your quarterback can drop 20. Your defense and kicker give you a certain amount of points too. So like, it's just crazy to look at those projections, and I feel like some of them are actually kind of high. I mean, McKissick against Pittsburgh, eight points is tough to get to. Edmonds against the Rams, 8 points. If you're not, catching the ball, again, tough to get to. So some of these things, as they look as good as they do or as bad as they do, it's still not a guaranteed path to getting those points. They can obviously smash that, but it's a good chance a lot of the time they fail that.
And let's not forget about Fulgham, too. Fulgham, the last 3 weeks combined, has 32 receiving yards. So it's not like Fulgham running out there at his 8-point projection. He was good in that 5-week stretch where he was getting a lot of play, getting some touchdowns. But Fulgham, the last 3 weeks, has barely gotten over 10 yards. So again, Justin's kind of having to run whoever he can out there, really hoping for either Kyle's team to just completely fall on its ass, or he's really hoping for some guys to break out. It's going to be hard for him. A 26-point differential in projection is a lot. In fact, 88 points in a half-point PPR league, that's about as low as you see for projections. You don't see much lower than that. I know Chad right now is at 84 because of all the stuff he's had to put in. Mine's at 78 only because of Lamar still projected for 0, but that should change soon. But, yeah, I mean, 88.5-point PPR league for projection, that's pretty low. So Kyle's going to hope for the best here. Both teams basically in playoff mode right now. Two good friends going at it. Last week of the year should be fun. But here we are, week 13. We're at the end of another regular season. Next week we'll have even less games to talk about. We'll only have 2 games. Talking about the 2 playoff games going on. But here we are. You can't ask for much more exciting than this. Getting down to the last week, a couple playoff games basically this week already, and it's been fun. I'm very happy we were able to get a season in. We were able to do this. Another great season, not in the books yet, but another great regular season is basically in the books, and very, very proud of the league and happy that everyone's still enjoying themselves.
Yeah, it's been fun. Obviously, we've seen some teams, show up and show out. We've seen some teams kind of fall off the face of the earth. We've seen some teams, fall off a cliff only to have some sort of, parachute to keep them alive, aka Dave. But to me, a little fun fact here, just to kind of close things out, would be the fact that there's a chance that if you were to lose this week, did you lose the first matchup against Jay, or did you win that?
The first I lost.
Okay, so if you were to lose this week, both players, I believe, because Dana picked the other division, correct? So both players who selected their divisions, respectively, would finish in 6th place. Both sides.
Or you could just say that the 2 guys that were in the championship last year. That'd
no,
be easier.
No. At this point in time, you recognize as shit all. Both players who picked their divisions would.
How do you pick the divisions, Krim? Is it just random?
I'm aware of how you picked them.
Is it just random how you pick divisions, or is it because you're in the championship?
How you picked them, but
put respect on the name then. Don't just say the 2 guys that picked the divisions. No. Why did we pick the divisions, Krim? You mean the 2 reigning people in the championship, myself winning it, obviously, picked the divisions, yeah.
Okay,
because we were in the championship.
Go that route and put some respect on that name. Put some respect on the players that you selected that you thought you were going to defeat, and both of you fell short.
I never said I was going to defeat them. I never predicted my team to be in the playoffs.
Well, at the same, you're not picking these divisions based off of players that you.
Well, no, but we didn't draft yet either. I'm not pick. Yeah, I'm picking the division because I think I have a better chance. See the fan. Didn't even pick my team to make the playoffs. So you slow your tide here, buddy. You slow your tide here.
Oh, you're gonna have to sit on the couch and watch.
I have my playoff predictions. I did decent. In fact, let's take a quick look at those while we're right here. My playoff predictions on the fantasy season. That's why I'm kind of hoping Chad loses. We both were against Chad early in the year. My playoff predictions, I got them right here written on paper, was fantasy predictions. I had playoffs, Crim, Jay, and Peter. So I'd get 2 out of 3 there. And then I had Rob, Tyler, and Dave. So I'd get 2 out of 3 there. 4 out of 6. It's pretty solid. It's pretty solid, Crim.
I mean, at the same time, you didn't have faith in your team to begin with. Then you had some sort of faith in it, last week with the games. I mean, Derrick Henry, that was probably the highlight of the week with Derrick Henry going absolutely bonkers.
And me and you talked about this earlier in the week, right? We talked about this earlier in the week where I wish there was a way, and I'm sure there is some website you can go to. I would be very curious to know how many people had Derrick Henry last week and lost. Same with Kyle. How many people had Tyreek Hill on their team last week? What percentage of fantasy football users had Tyreek Hill on their team last week and lost? I don't know the percentages, but I'd have to guess if you're putting up 51, 37 points, you're going to win most weeks if a player's doing that. I would bet it's as low as 10% that actually had Tyreek Hill on their team, Derrick Henry on their team, and lost last week. One or the two. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy.
I like to also take it one step further and see if there was any team at all, I doubt it's a thing, that had both Tyreek Hill and Derrick Henry and lost. It's probably very difficult to do so.
Yeah,
but I think there was somebody out there that probably had that.
Yeah, because that'd be 90 points right there. I mean, that's just nutty. That is nutty. But yeah, I mean, it's been a fun year, no doubt about it. It's been a tough one for me, but we will have a new champion. We'll see if Rob can keep it in the family, so to speak, in his division. We'll see if he can do that, or will we finally, after 6 seasons, crown a third new champion? Crim's hoping it. Trey's hoping it. Everyone's hoping except for Rob, obviously. But yeah, it's been fun, guys. We'll be back at it next week. And yeah, can't wait to get this thing rolling again next year. Any last thoughts, Grimmy?
No, I mean, like you said, I'm ready to kind of get everything settled in. You and I kind of have some homework to do in regards to, with who wins where, what breaks
Hopefully they
down
just make
how,
it easy on us. Just make it easy.
It's really only going to be the Peter.
It's just Division 1. Division 2 doesn't matter.
Division 2 is fine. It's really only going to be, how does Chad play in if he loses?
That's what I'm saying. If there's 3, 6, and 7 teams, yeah, I don't know.
But
we'll figure it out.
At the same time too, it's essentially Chad loses, Trey or Peter, whoever wins that, I don't think had the tiebreaker over Chad. So it's just a matter of whoever wins.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, Trey has it over Chad, but Chad has it over Peter. So it would just essentially, I think it's easy. It breaks down to whoever wins that game gets in. So
yeah, but there's still a third spot.
Yeah, it's me, and then whoever wins that game, then Chad. I think that Chad. That's weird. Anyways, we'll cut this out.
So,
we'll do the homework in our spare time, and come the end of the week, we'll have it all settled in. So, we'll kind of know how things break down fairly soon. Kick off again at 1:00. We have an extended week again. Tuesday, there's a game with the Cowboys and the Ravens. Hopefully, that doesn't play into the playoffs for fantasy, purposes, because it'd be, much more appealing to me if we can get back to the regular scheduling. But, we'll see what happens. I mean, having a Tuesday guy could kind of, be fun, but at the same time, these weeks throw all the transactions off whack, and people, I think, forget about them at times. So hopefully not the case. So we'll see.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. Have a good weekend, and we will talk to you again next week.